Hey friends, it's Jeff. Quick April update. As many of you know, all our best stuff is at aroundthecircle.org. Our 10 question series is up and complete. We sat down with 9 of the most informed people we know and we talk about their type. These conversations pushed well beyond 2 hours each and is a wonderful treasury on Enneagram insights from experts speaking about their type. We will also be posting the last 3 episodes of our college class on triads in May, and starting in June, we will begin hosting a Saturday mid-morning discussion once a month. This will be built like a mini conference. We will have guests, and we are timing this sucker so that even the Aussies can join us. Links are there. Links also to our June event are there. Half-price tickets for our June event in Colorado are still available till April 20th. And finally, all our full interviews with Steph Baron-Hall, Dr. Billy Shuey, Kristin Messegee, Melissa Kircher, and the always spectacular Kelly Langley-Cook. These are all live on the site now. Thank you for being here, and may all good things be yours. I'm Jeff Cook.
And I'm TJ Wilson.
And this is Around the Circle.
I'm walking slowly, I'm taking my time. All I could talking is starting to rhyme. I'm letting go of lonely, letting go of strife. I just can't get enough of this beautiful life.
The Enneagram is a map of the human personality. It's a tool for navigating relationships. It creates language for what motivates us and helps us look at the way we look at everything else. Most importantly, the Enneagram's a mirror because sometimes you need help seeing yourself. My name's Jeff Cook. I'm a longtime professor of philosophy in Greeley, Colorado. And with me is TJ Wilson, coffee guru, lover of theology, and Enneagram ninja.
Hello.
Hey, TJ.
Hey.
We have a new friend.
Hooray.
Kristin Messegee is with us. Kristin is an Enneagram Six. She is serving and supporting Enneagram Sixes, and she hosts the podcast Life Uninhibited, which is an Enneagram podcast which is tailored for Enneagram Sixes. And we are thrilled that she made time to join us today. So, Kristin, welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Been looking forward to this.
We're very excited too.
My favorite folks to talk to are really informed Sixes. I have said this from very early on, the Sixes were always the hardest for me to get my head around, and I generally have the hardest time connecting to Sixes. But for whatever reason, actually I could tell you the reason, but when Sixes are informed on Enneagram, it gives us a common point of reference to talk. And that becomes, and all of a sudden I have like a whole host of new people that are now in my life because we actually have a discussion point. So
I do have to know
welcome.
what that reason is, why it's hard.
That I don't connect with Sixes. So I have a theory, working theory, that 1s, 2s, and 6s have the hardest time connecting with one another because they are responsive reactive types. They are always waiting to respond to the other. Now, you are married to a 1, correct? So this may not be you may have some insights into
That tracks. That tracks.
you see where I'm going there?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Just for the sake of the example, my partner is also a 6, and when we were in the early stages of our relationship, and Jeff and her had not interacted a ton yet, and she drove him home one day, and like they hadn't had real reason to interact that much, so they still didn't know each other that well, and it was just like the most awkward, like, I don't know what questions to ask thing. And Jeff was...
It's worse than this.
Yeah, please. Yes.
You so awesome.
You were there. I wasn't. I only have the story secondhand.
She's got this great Toyota pickup. I jump into the pickup. She's going to drive me home. And dummy that I am, I just am saying whatever comes to mind. And the thing that came to my mind was, woman in a pickup, that's sexy. We didn't talk the rest of the day. Like that was just.
Where do you go with that? That is terrible. Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite.
That is.
In fact,
so
I don't
great.
think that I've talked to Joni since.
She's like, you do your thing with him.
Yeah.
Anyway, Enneagram 1, though. So I do have a theory, and I'd be curious if this plays out. Is it the case that you and your husband like have something that you love between you that really pulls you together, and that's the thing you talk about, you converse about prior to having kids and all the rest? Did you share common work? Did you?
We actually met at work, so
there you go.
Maybe that. We've always. It's interesting because I feel like we have a real instinctual connection. And a lot of times when we're having like a conflict or something, it's like it just doesn't work, and we just stick with this very instinctual connection that we have. And anyway, I could tell a lot of stories about me and the husband, but here's an example of what you're talking about. Very recently, we started saying to each other at the beginning of almost every conversation, kind of jokingly, kind of not, "This is not a criticism." And then we say whatever.
To one another. Yeah.
And it just kind of like there had been some tension, and we noticed we were both kind of being reactive. And so it was like we just start every conversation with, "This is not a criticism." And then we laugh, and then we could kind of just not have that like, what? Because kind of taking everything wrong can occur in certain seasons. For sure.
I'm not going to lie. I literally say that to my partner regularly.
I think everyone should just take this. You've got a new tool. Just
Yep. This is not a criticism.
like, hey,
It
let
is
me
a
just
statement
set the-
of fact.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Well, we're going to play 20 questions with Kristin. She is graciously jumping into this while we're still trying to invent it. And so this shows your character. It shows your confidence in yourself. It shows all the greatest attributes of sixness that you're coming in and throwing punches. So I appreciate
Yeah, this is my favorite thing.
your courage.
My courage, exactly.
Yes.
It's on display.
That's so not helpful, but okay, carry on.
So no pressure. The thing that I've been most interested in recently is just asking people, what do most folks not know about your type? What do most folks not know about sixes, just in general?
Ooh, that is a big open question. I think, okay, let me say, this is just what came up, so we'll go with it. So people think sixes are afraid, but it's not that. It's that we don't know how to contact our fear. So everything that we're doing is truly just in an effort to not feel afraid and to not contact all the scary things that we do see that can happen. The other thing is sixes hold the truth that life can go really badly. So this is where I feel sixes get kind of a raw deal. It's like we're holding the collective truth that all the bad things that we worry about happening actually do happen to people, right? We're not just like making stuff up. Even the craziest things that happen.
I'm with you on this, by the way.
Yeah. I don't know if it's what sixes people miss about six. It's just there's a lack of like respect, I guess, for what we're holding collectively.
When you say contact, I've never heard this word before. You don't know how to contact your fear. What does that mean for you?
So kind of the way I teach it is like, if this is fear, this ball I'm holding in front of me, all of our strategies, including anxiety, which we can talk about, are to avoid touching it, to avoid actually contacting it. And the big fix is that if you learn to contact your fear, prove that you can do that, then, what can't you do, right? As a six, then you have access to faith, courage, and all the things. But that's how I see it. It's like all the strategies are just to avoid touching into essentially a feeling, which we'll talk about a lot.
So you would separate your anxiety from yourself. It's like over there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I see it as it's literally, people think anxiety is fear. I'm like, no, anxiety is a strategy to not feel fear. So if you go with this, the more you can learn to feel and be with that fear, anxiety has less of a job in your life. You can experience
So
all that.
you are aware of fear, and it's different from anxiety.
Yes.
Anxiety is a tool.
Yes, anxiety functions to keep humans, but sixes specifically, from touching into the fear. So even though it feels bad and we don't like it and all those things, to the system, it feels better and more familiar and more effective than actually just being with the emotion of fear, which we actually feel very infrequently, if at all.
That's a tremendous answer. What are your thoughts, Steve?
Yeah, this is your relationship to fear was actually one of my big questions as well, because I think we're mishandling the way that we talk about sixes and fear, and as you're talking, I'm thinking about like nine's relationship to anger and how we're working so hard to hold it back in both directions, and it just, a lot of nines are entirely unaware of their anger. I am one of the ones that feels it bubbling underneath the surface at all times. And like, I wonder if there is a strong similarity here that the fear or the anger, and potentially for threes, the shame is the thing that they're working so hard to stay away from, to not have to manage.
Yeah,
in a
you're
way.
literally answering my questions that I came with. So I just want to put that out there. That like, this is exactly. Yes.
Well, and I'm also thinking that like part of my theories about sixes and fear is like I have this working theory that eights and fours as well, like these three are not against their underlying feeling. Like nines and ones are like have a negative relationship with their anger, but eights are like, anger is a tool. It's a great thing. Why would anybody not want to have anger? Twos and threes are trying to get away from their shame. Fours, all of the fours that I've talked to don't understand why other people have a problem with shame. It's just like, it's just part of them, you know? And I see a similar thing with sixes where it's like, if fear is keeping you alive, then why wouldn't you want fear around?
Right.
And so I'm working on this theory, but you're bringing in this other aspect that aligns pretty closely with what we understand about nines and anger.
Yeah.
So
There's also this, I mean, most of my work is helping sixes feel feelings. That's like the shortcut of what I'm doing, because this emotion avoidance, I think, plays exactly like what you're saying. Different emotions for different numbers. If we can touch into the emotion and prove something to ourselves about the avoidance that we're doing. And I think you can kind of flip it on its head, like with your example with eights. It's like they think this emotion's great. They kind of wield it. Well, then what is the emotion that you don't want to touch into, right? Vulnerability, tenderness, all that kind of stuff. So there's some emotional avoidance that I think plays in all numbers. And then for sixes too, it's not all the things for all the sixes. It's the things that particularly ping you. So this whole blanket thing too of like, well, sixes are afraid of. There's so many things I am not afraid of. I'm not a door checker. I'm not barely even a door locker. There's so many things that I don't have any worry about. I could probably turn those dials up. But relationally, which I've heard y'all talk about, so this is good. Like relationally is really where all of my fears are and where I do all of my like work.
Is that common for sixes? Do you see yourself as somewhat unique on that front since you're working with sixes? Like, or is it the case that you commonly see most sixes have more fear around relationships as opposed to other things?
Yes, to the second part. I find more sixes, the fears are relational, which actually makes sense if we know kind of what we're talking about in terms of I wrote them down just to keep myself on track. What are the motivations, right? Security, that certainty, assurance, as y'all talk about in certain areas, support and guidance. It's this guidance piece that is so important. And then approval of others is a major motivation for six that doesn't really, I think, get talked about enough. Like, we want to be liked, we want to be approved of. And it's the fear of not having that drives a lot of behavior.
And
it's
unlike
safe.
heart types, it's not because this is how you know who you are. It's because this is what keeps you safe. Those relationships, like the disruption of those relationships is what would cause harm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
I love that. That's a great distinction.
Because I want approval, but it's not so I'm necessarily liked or loved. I would rather be held in esteem or be seen as useful or valuable, right? That someone would need me in some way. That helps. That's where I want to be. Mm-hmm. You cannot like me, but if you think I've got something to give, that's good. Hold me in that spot.
Bang. That's excellent. What's the first thing on your mind, Kristin?
What? What do you mean? Like
question
when I wake up, or like
just in general? Yeah.
Okay, so this
on
gets
Tuesdays.
I know. Like, what are you talking about? So my first question was actually, tell me about anger from your 9 perspective and your 1 perspective. I want to hear.
Ooh.
I want to hear.
So I already gave a little bit.
Yeah.
Your turn, Jeff.
Anger. I think the idea that a lot of our emotions convert into anger, and I like the idea of tools here, is real helpful. So in the same way that 8s convert some of their feelings that they don't want to deal with into anger at times, I feel that. And the difference I imagine between the two is that I convert my feelings into anger, and then the anger goes inwardly. So it's a very self-critical way of being in the world. So I feel like sadness at the fact that I'm not as well liked as I want to be from some of my friend group. That converts very easily into anger, and that anger targets my inner life. And I say to myself, what am I doing that is causing these people to not care about me? And it's a underlying feeling of like anger and critique and judgment kind of get mixed up in a soup there in terms of how I experience it. Now, of course, I've done things quite well, as you probably can guess, Kristin. And so when that anger goes in, sometimes I can shield myself from that anger, and then all of a sudden that anger doesn't go away. Now it bounces, and now I'm angry at the people who don't love me.
Okay.
And so it hits me in the chest. I have this shield up, and now the anger is going towards them. And now my judgment is also going towards them. And like, well, here's the things that's really dysfunctional with this person. And I bet you I could give you 28 reasons why they actually are the one. And you can see how this goes.
Yeah.
So
it's relatable too.
Wrestling with the anger for me is kind of in that space. It's a good question. I haven't said that before. Go ahead.
That's really tender too.
It's got me thinking about other things as well, like the 8's anger, and then maybe fear is sort of a secondary, and then for 1's anger, and then shame is maybe a little secondary.
Yep. Shame comes in with the stress move for sure.
I mentioned I'm constantly aware of my anger. I have wondered for a long time if I had grown up as a different type, encountering the things that I saw in my childhood, if I would have grown up to be like a high temper person. That's kind of what I experienced. And I also did the thing where it's like, I will never become that. My dad was not abusive, but he had bursts of anger where like he threw a chair across the room, punched holes in walls, like those kinds of things I saw, and I didn't want to be that. So I worked so hard to not be that I ingrained it in myself to inevitably become that. But I wonder if I wasn't a 9, if I didn't experience my anger in that way, if I would have become much more hot-headed than I am. And conversely, like if I had not encountered that in my childhood if I might have actually gone to sleep to my anger. But as things stand, I am constantly aware of it, and I've seen the way that it bursts out of me inappropriately.
That was my question. Does it find its way?
Terrible damage. I've told a few stories on here about some of the things that, like, just like stupid mistakes. I kind of accidentally threw one of my female friends up against a locker in high school because
as one does.
I overreacted to a thing that happened. Anyway, like it is constantly there, and I am always working to maintain it so that it doesn't come out of me sideways, which also means that the only way that it comes out of me is sideways.
I feel that so relates to fear. I just feel it. But when I feel it all the time, when I'm aware of it, then I'm able to work with it, manage it, utilize all my tools, as opposed to all the behaviors that come out to pretend it's not there or over prove that it's not, all the different things. So having that awareness of it has actually been really painful.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's fine. It just is also what it is.
Yeah, it is.
It just is.
I'm bad at it, but it is. So.
Also, sixes, you'll see a lot of anger covering up fear, right? Sixes can be, as we know. I was listening to y'all's podcast recently. I was like, everyone's very positive. No one's throwing any numbers under the bus. I was like, I have to be careful because I'll go straight to how mean sixes can be. I don't think it's talked about enough.
I think you're allowed to say that. We're not.
Okay, that's fair.
We're not allowed to say
I can talk about my mom, but you can't. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So to kind of pull the lid off that a little bit, like just the attack nature that sixes can have and really not see it, like be totally blind to the impact, is a big part of how I think anger shows up for sixes when they're not paying attention.
That's interesting.
I would love to, so this will be my second question. Then I have no idea where the anger comes from for sixes. On my Enneagram map, the getting to anger for this type, there's not a clean through line, and it doesn't happen very often for me. So like I would associate anger with your security move, but that probably isn't what's going on.
Oh no, not in this case.
It's certainly not your stress move, and it's not where you're centered. So where are sixes picking up this anger from?
Well, it's you just skip over the fear. Anger, okay, here's how I like to think of it. Anger feels sturdy. So much of a six's experience in life doesn't have a sturdiness within. The physical experience is not that. It's all this heady stuff. It's anxiety. It can feel like your ground is just gone. Like a lot of being a six is just like the rug just got pulled out from under you and you're, ugh. So how do you get sturdiness? And anger and cynicism, they feel good. People don't like to talk about this. That these are not self-righteousness too. I'm going to throw in here. It feels way better than I don't know anything. I don't know what I'm doing. So I think anger and self-righteousness and cynicism, that kind of cluster, is a much preferable emotional state to hang out in because it feels sturdy. It feels certain. Feels certain. There it is.
Yeah. No, I love the image of sturdiness there. I also can't figure out anger in fours either. And as you're answering this, I feel like it may be similar though.
Ooh.
Is both are converting.
Yep.
Like the 8 is, they're converting the pantheon of emotions into this something else for these reasons. I suppose the 4 is doing it for a different purpose though.
But convert it
in frustration.
So we fold it in.
Yeah.
So that it's for survival. It's what can I grab onto emotionally? And this is something I think gets really confusing when we're talking about centers. I always am thinking in terms of emotion just because I'm always thinking, what's the practical work to do? So when I think of strategies, what's actually happening is we're trying to get to a sturdy feeling place. And then to just repeat what I already said, the ones that feel sturdy are not necessarily functional, especially relationally, but they feel a lot better. It feels a lot better to think it's probably you then it's me not knowing anything, right? Kind of going back to TJ, what you were saying. Yeah.
I think this flows nicely into one of my other big questions, which was about being a six in the current political climate.
How dare you?
Did something happen?
So I love musicals. I love Wicked, the movie Wicked. I've watched it so many times since it came out. Like I love it so. It's so good, and there is something to be said about the con man who rises to power by tricking people into thinking he's magic, but also
We're just going there
I'm
today.
so excited about
I'm
this.
describing the movie Wicked, Jeff.
Yes, yeah.
And one of the big things that he does, he recognizes from his experience in the real world, is that he creates a them. Mm-hmm. He establishes an enemy that everyone can blame all the problems on. And then now all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, it's over the course of many, many years, but we see within the story a big part of what's happening is the world is turning against talking animals because he has decided talking animals are now the enemy. And it's this sense of creating an us versus them. Like now we have us, people, and them, talking animals, they are the enemy. And there is a position of strength and security and, dare we say, comfort that comes from being on the side that is against the evil. Mm-hmm. And so I am wondering, like, with what we were just saying in mind, like, what is it like to be a six in our kind of political climate?
So you're going to get sixes in all different places in this political climate. So I feel unique, or I will say the strain of six that I am is so against groupthink of any kind.
Interesting. Okay.
So I cannot be in a group without being able to critique it. That to me is safety. And I don't trust anyone who can't critique their own community. I find it just super sus, and I always see, like, and it's kind of one-ish, but the motivation is different. It's this: how could we be better? How could we, do more? How can we please see where we are missing things? So that's my position always. So I'm always like, what's going on over there though? I need to know. So there's not only need to critique what's going on here, I have to know what other people are thinking, how they're coming to their conclusions. I have to make people make sense to me.
Sure.
And that's where I feel my sense of certainty. Now that is rough because not everybody's doing that work. And then I can't ever be in a group and just sort of like settle in.
Sure.
Other sixes, 1,000,000% find a group, settle in, and that's where they feel their sense of safety. They're not wanting to question everything. They're like, please tell me. Like, that's a lot of sixes are going to be more comfortable with a more authoritarian type of environment.
Sure.
A lot of them aren't. A lot of them are going to authoritarianism shows up in all different kinds of ways, right?
Yeah.
So there's my personal answer to that. And then there's how I see sixes. And so even sixes that I will maybe agree with, right? Or we sort of think the same way. We're not really thinking the same way because I'm like, great, now we can like attack the crap out of this worldview we have. And that's not usually what people want to do, even if they're sixes.
Yeah.
So, and this is, I think, why six is so complicated. It's because this is all still to avoid, right? Contacting fear, contacting uncertainty. It just looks very, very, very different.
It's nice to live in a house, but is everything in the house okay? We should probably tear it down to the studs first just to make sure.
Right.
Like, yeah.
And it's even more like, I can tell you exactly what's wrong with the house. And can we focus right there, please?
Yeah.
And that isn't what everyone's doing.
I have a question on that. Is it the case that when you see other sixes who are outsourcing their need for security to strongman, is that always underlined? Is that always an unhealthy move?
I mean, that's totally up for interpretation. I mean, I married one. Do you know what I mean? Like, so
Someone who comes across as strong?
yes. I mean,
Okay,
he's
yeah.
a one. He's super solid. He takes care of so many things. So that like energetically I knew before I picked him. So I made that move.
Yeah.
So I feel sturdy enough and safe enough to sort of do my questioning and all this stuff sort of externally. Is this making any sense as I'm saying? Okay.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
So is it always an unhealthy move? It's always an incomplete move. Okay. So it's always not quite the way. I will say that.
Yeah.
Because it keeps us from becoming more holistic thinkers, from really doing critical thinking, from owning our own authority, which is obviously a huge thing. So I will say that, yeah, I'm gonna stick with my answer. What do y'all think?
It might very easily be a move toward health, but it is not in and of itself a healthy move.
There we go. Yeah. Because then what happens when something goes amiss or you start to question, what's happening? If you haven't done more work, that can completely dysregulate. Like I work with a lot of sixes who have religious trauma, and once they start to question, it is a mess for them.
The whole sweater unravels.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really hard.
I want to name the opposite of this because I feel like I'm on the opposite side of this, which I hadn't named, but like I'm hyper self-dependent. I don't do codependence with anybody, but I don't know that is a positive. Like there is something about being able to connect with others in a reciprocated, I care for you, you care for me relationship that's really part of the value of life. And that's something that I can lack in terms of having those experiences. So just to name it as like, this isn't all negative on what appears to be a codepending tendency for sixes. It's, I think, as you were saying, like it's incomplete and you need to own your own authority. And if you can get to that space, then that actually is a healthy way to be a six in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. And it's so hard because even sixes who feel sturdier, right? They're more against generally. This is kind of how I was for just ever. It's still an attachment to the authority. And that is very, very, very hard for sixes to see. So if I'm the kind of six that's like taking out bosses and arguing with my pastor or whoever, it feels like I'm so free. I'm such a free thinker. But it's not, because it's in relation to the authority. And that can also be another kind. That was my unraveling of like, oh, what? Am I actually scared? Because it does not feel like fear when you're, fighting Goliath or whatever. It feels great. Yeah. But to realize that's actually fear avoidance was my personal, like, what is happening here? I think for myself? Like, I don't really know.
TJ, what's your next question?
I guess since we were talking about your husband, I am very curious. You mentioned earlier that you are learning about earning.
Ugh.
And
so bad.
And you and your husband are both earners. And I'm just curious, like, what kinds of things are you learning about that and the dynamic between the two of you?
It's really bittersweet because on the one hand, it works so well. I mean, we are both high functioning, super conscientious, really taking each other into account all the time in different ways, right? I move toward, he does a lot more of what the just like, he's good. And he expects me to just be like, he has so much faith in me to kind of be sturdy and competent and everything like he is. So there's so much functionality there. And I think too, maybe we can talk about unproductive thinking a little bit, because I think that when it comes to both of us, bringing our more vulnerable selves to the table and asking for what we might need or want, that's where I think we struggle, because we're so good at sort of intuitively taking care of each other and meeting each other's needs and the family. Like, it just all works really, really well. We're very functional parents, very functional, especially now. We did have a season where that wasn't the case when the kids were little, because
Sure. Because it's chaos.
It's just chaos. Yeah.
Kids are chaos. Yeah.
Total chaos. Now they're grown, they're great kids. Like, it's just all very functional and it works really well. But like I said, I do think there is this, like, if we're not earning something, how do we go about finding out what it is that we're trying to get, and then to ask for it all just kind of feels, it's a lot blobby than the sort of sturdy take care of each other as we know how do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's where it all starts to feel a little less, I don't know, easy.
Sure.
I have no idea what the question was. Did I answer it?
Yeah. Yeah. It was basically talk about earning.
Yeah.
In your relationship. So
I suppose this isn't necessarily building on it, but it is. But I'm really curious about sixes and their identity inside of teams. Oftentimes, when you have a collective, it can be a family, it can be a business, but but commonly in business world, and perhaps you can speak to other sixes on this front as well, you're going to have some go-getters. You're going to have some folks who they want to take over the world, and they're moving, and they have goals, and these become the goals of the community. And commonly, in my mind, sixes end up being the necessary element of teams to kind of put the brakes on some of that. I'm curious if you are able to ever internalize the goals of everyone else, or is it the case that when you hear goal setting and we're moving, do you immediately say, my function in this group is just to make sure everybody doesn't get hurt?
So it's not that clear what, like, awareness of the function, first of all, right? That's not going to be top of mind for most sixes. So you just see that it comes out in how they talk about, like, their problems at work. Mm-hmm. You hear that. You just hear all the relational troubles and you hear their fear. Like, so many sixes are constantly worried about losing their job. Like, that's a really common six thing.
Sure.
So I don't know. There are a few different questions in there. I think that sort of taking on the goals of everyone, that tracks for many sixes, right? A six like me is going to be questioning, are those the right goals? Is that what we're really doing here? What are we actually doing here? Like, so there's just a real different way that we approach what the, let's say, organization is doing. So like in my family, I'm the one who's like, are we doing enough? Is this the right direction that we're going? Are we meeting the mark? What is the mark? And that's, I think, maybe where the difference is, where I'm like, are we meeting the mark? What could it even be? Where my husband's very clear on, like, this is what we're doing. This is what's happening. I'm like, what are we doing? And is it enough? So in organizations, the sixes who are really, truly holding it all together, like they've adapted the goals of the group, it just looks different. Those are the ones who are going to be, the questions are going to be more about, do you see this? Do you see that? As opposed to, is this even what we should be doing? But there's still, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's really like, what is the six thinking? Okay, well, what is the best thing for the group, for the mission?
Mm-hmm.
You got thoughts on that too?
Well, and I think that if the goals, if the sort of leadership of any organization is at least good enough, then the role sort of becomes like, in what ways are we missing out? Like, where could we be fixing other problems that are keeping us from these goals? Like, that's one of the things that I see with my wife a lot. She works at a public high school, and the principal there is amazing. She's so great, and she has, like, so many things that are part of, like, what she is doing with the school that are really well laid out, and there is good forward-moving leadership at that school. And then also there's like 80 other people who have their own things. And so much of what my wife struggles with in that organization is the ways that people are not aligning with the leadership goals.
Okay. You just cleaned up what I couldn't find in my answer. It all depends on the leadership. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for that
sure.
orientation. Because I'm like, well, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this. Well, what informs that is this leadership piece. If I like who's in charge, then I'm in. So like something my husband will say about me is he says, Kristin, you're a rebel. And I'm like, that is not accurate. It's like, I am such a rule follower. And he said, if you agree with the rules. And that I was like, oh, that tracks. So if I'm on board with what you've got going on, then I am for sure on your side. We're going together. And then what you described, I'm going to be annoyed at people who can't get on board. But if I don't trust that leader, then I might be, gathering my allies to oust the person or whatever. So yes, you just nailed it.
I hadn't thought about that as like you have the tendency to start a coup as opposed to leave.
I do.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of dependence part, is that like the truly free people wouldn't be questioning the leaders. They just leave.
Go.
Yeah.
That's it.
We try to stay away from instincts, but are you a sexual bonding?
This was one of my questions for y'all. Like, how important do you think it is? We can save it.
I
think social first, but I think my sexual and social are just right there, kind of duking it out. And then my self-pres is elsewhere.
It's like, I'm trying to put on the map of my mind what sixes are starting coups. And that was, so that was an interesting one for me.
Okay. Ian Cron said once, and sixes are either at your feet or at your throat. And I'm like, what else is there to say?
That's a good line.
Isn't it good? I know. Yeah. It's just so true. And
that is not like broad categories. That is minute to minute with sixes.
That is minute to minute with sixes. That is, yep.
Bang. Next question from you, Teach.
Okay, so you are a professional counselor, coach.
Coach, yes.
Aimed at sixes.
Yep.
Is that all you do? Like, do you only work with sixes?
Yep. I only work with sixes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
I have worked in my early days. I coached many different numbers, but I'm solely sixes now. Yeah.
Okay. So I am like, I feel like I have a bead on the answer to this question just from the conversation that we've had so far, but I'm really curious, like, as someone who is being really intentional to help guide and coach and work with in some type of authoritative capacity other sixes, like, how do you reconcile your own sense of authority with your pushback on your natural pushback toward what authority is?
Well, it's two parts, right? It's my own and then it's theirs. So I try to be very aware of both. In the beginning, this is embarrassing. Okay. So in the beginning, I went to coaching school, not Enneagram, which is another funny thing. I positioned myself outside of the Enneagram community very intentionally. Because of course I did. And I had some frameworks and I was like, I've got this, right? I have frameworks, and I would just put people through these frameworks, and they worked really well for me. It wasn't really working because it was a little too pointed. You take the Enneagram and you take some pointed frameworks, and that's very confronting. Well, I didn't know that in the beginning. So I've had to, learn through painful life that
experience.
Yeah. Experience.
Yeah.
So I've really learned that my job, what I've decided my job is to truly help sixes access their own authority that they're constantly trying to give me. So there's teaching and there's coaching. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty happy to teach, even though I'm always like, I don't know. And coaching is really my sweet spot. So I've just learned to utilize a lot of feeling tools, a lot of somatic tools. It's so easy, as I'm sure you both know, to get into a thought thing with sixes, right? This is why a lot of different types of therapy don't work for sixes, because they're so self-aware and who cares, right? Some of my most Enneagram informed clients are the hardest clients because they want to pop into theory constantly because it's safe.
Yep.
And like, well, what about this? What about this? So I do my best to kind of bypass all of that and really work in the somatic, in the body. So they find themselves, find what they think about things, and then help them actually be able to bring that out into the world, right? In this like more uninhibited way.
Yeah.
That builds towards my last question. I love that you brought up somatic, because in my mind, what that is an invitation into some security spaces. And so for you as a six, like, where are the spaces that you feel most comfortable that are your own, not anyone else's, but this is your space?
I mean, my most secure moments are actually when I'm coaching, which was not the case in the beginning because I was learning and, you know, really attached to results, which can't be. But like when so I run a membership and I do one-on-one coaching. And when I'm in that membership space, I'm so comfortable. I'm just so, I don't know. I just love it. And I think it's because I'm not in my own head. I'm in true curiosity and exploration and so genuinely interested in what's going to come forth from this person. It's just, there's so much freedom there. Otherwise, really any time I spend by myself, I'm great company. I like spend a lot of time alone and I really like it.
I haven't thought about this, but you can make a distinction between internal thinking and external thinking.
Say more?
It sounds like when you say that I'm in my own head, that's an internal oriented meditations.
Yes.
But coaching, there's something that's interesting out there.
Yeah.
And I want to put special emphasis on the direction. And that's the space you feel most comfortable.
Yeah. And similarly, when I'm most comfortable in my relationship, it's when I'm able to make this separation. This is another thing I talk about with my clients all the time. Like, so here's this person and I feel like they're kind of in my psychic space and I'm in theirs and it's just kind of a mess. So when I can separate that. And so one of the things I do with my husband a lot is I'll say, okay, so this thing happened. Here's what my brain did with it. What would your brain do with that? And that feels very safe and spacious. And it allows for both of us to be these very different human beings. It doesn't make either of us wrong. And it's fascinating. Like, to me, this is one of the great things about the Enneagram. It's like, get curious about these people. Like, what is it like for them? Not theoretically.
Yeah.
Like, here's a thing in the world occurring. What's coming up for you? Here's what's coming up for me. That feels very safe and spacious for me.
I would guess that is not even a little bit natural for sixes. That ability to say, this is what's happening inside. Give me something back from that, knowing that this is not... So many sixes are like, it's the place of sixness is so reactive.
Yeah.
That it's very difficult for sixes to recognize that the way that they are processing whatever's happening inside is not necessarily like part of what the situation really is.
You said that very graciously. No, you did. It's not necessarily connected to reality is another way to say it. You said it nicer.
I didn't want to say reality.
No, I know, because it is.
Real, it's a real thing, but also...
It's not... Yeah, you said it. Great.
I think you guys are both pushing into the essence of my question. Everything you're describing feels very secure.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel somatic at all.
Say more. Oh.
It doesn't feel like you're engaging your body at any level there. And so I would be skeptical if it's a security move. It feels like you're just a very healthy...
I've done a lot of work. I am my best client.
Yeah. Well, or is there something more that could be said in terms of the getting into your body and feeling at peace?
Yes. Just going to take over. I'm just going to interrupt and take over.
Please.
Okay.
Please.
I just believe fundamentally, if I have the capacity to feel any feeling, I can navigate this world and be okay. And the thought that sixes need to believe in their soul is I can meet the moments of my life.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we have to have like on board, not up here, but like in our souls. That allows us to move forward. And there's also an acceptance, because sixes sort of live in resistance to reality, right? In resistance to the truth that life is uncertain, that we have no clue, that everybody's making it up to some degree, that we don't know what's going to happen. There's living in resistance to that as reality. Mm-hmm. So if I know that I can feel any feeling, then I can accept that I don't know what's coming. For the most part, obviously getting tripped up here and there and having to reorient to that over and over. But that's sort of the frame that I just want sixes to, put on, live into.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to say something prescriptive and not phrase it as a question. I would be really curious for sixes to describe not the relational security nor the mental security, but I physically feel well and in kind of a Zen space. I have carved out a space in which I can say to myself authentically and truthfully, everything is fine here.
Okay.
In a physical way, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So this gets to one of my questions. So I'm just gonna bring it in.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say, and then I'm gonna ask the question. So that is, yes, all sixes want to feel this sort of Zen peace thing. Mm-hmm. That's nice. We all want 9, right? But what is really scary and interesting to try on is healthy 3 space.
Truth.
So can I be okay as I'm confident, as I'm sharing what I actually know? Like for me to say a couple minutes ago, I'm super healthy, I've done all this work, like my brain immediately started chattering to me about that. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Just like, set that aside. That's very uncomfortable to be in this like sturdy sort of, I actually know a thing or two. I talk about sixes like we have the sort of magic eraser to our own accomplishments. And it's like literally we just wake up like brand new babes every day. It's hilarious. So peace is nice, but why do we do all this work? So we can actually stand on our own 2 feet and move in the world. And that healthy 3 space is like kryptonite if we think about it. So my question for y'all is your stress, quote, stress number. Do you have that same, what's your relationship to it, I guess, is the question.
Oh, that was a different angle that I was going to
Oh, okay.
Go.
Does that answer your question, though? So it's like peace and Zen is fine, but there's this whole other world of sturdy emotion that sixes need to be able to inhabit.
I think 6s and 9s have the hardest time getting into their security number as I just kind of think through everyone. I feel like I think that gets emphasized by what you're saying is that it's partially easier, but you can also see the immediate tools of going into healthy 3 space in order to get what you need. So, which is actually a real healthy way to be in the world, because so many of us are just chasing after the delights of our security number, and that may not be a healthy move at all. So I suppose that's all what I was hearing as you were talking was that you actually have a better understanding of how to balance as a 6 in both directions, and that you are rightly allowing your security move to be a treasure, a finish line, a dessert that's not just consumed all the time. And that, I think, is the best way to be in the world.
Oh, that was well said. Oh, I like that.
I also think with sixes in particular and other earners, I think there is a sense of like part of what that security number is allowing yourself to be present to your experiences as they're happening. My partner is an artist. I keep coming back to her. She is not ubiquitous for sixes, but she is an artist. She loves painting. She loves expressing that part of herself, but it's so hard to get to those things because you have to do the dishes first. You have to make sure there's not laundry. Like you have to do these things. She regularly cleans her studio instead of making art. And there's a sense of not feeling right, not feeling comfortable, not feeling good because there's all of these other things that need to be done first. And part of her security move is in accepting letting all of the other things not press on what she's doing right now.
Is she self-pres?
She leans pretty heavily self-pres.
Okay. So that makes sense to me because I'm the slob in the, I married self-pres too. So yeah, that makes sense. So yep. Just whatever the duty is, whatever the thing's pressing that you have to do first, right? To earn whatever the heck. Yes, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. And then she feels bad about having all of this list of tasks that she's supposed to accomplish before she can get to the thing that she likes, and she can't get to the thing that she likes because she has to do, and then this becomes this cycle.
And so for her, it'd be interesting, like, what's the discomfort, right? What would be that emotional space if you let it go and do the thing? Like, what would come up? You can be with whatever the heck that is.
Right.
Build that capacity for that discomfort, right? So it's really building capacity for discomfort. That's why I got so like about the going to Zen, because everything we've been saying. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that that part of that security move is less about like finding the Zen garden and more about finding the Zen in whatever trash pile you're standing in.
As it were. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
My final thought on this was you articulated something that I don't know that I've ever thought, but when people talk about me, oftentimes they do want to critique how much I try to earn things and that's my posture in the world and that I am moving and that I'm feeling good when I'm accomplishing things. And very common, here's what you need to focus on as a one ends up being you need to stop at some level and enjoy. And as I'm talking to you about your security move, I hear that in my language. I'm like, why don't you just stop and just be at peace? Partially what I want to hear, but I don't know that that's best for me. And as you were speaking, I was hearing something real similar that it's like, I'm not sure that that's how I roll and
right.
Really how I feel best in the world.
Right. So you go to 7? Is that right?
I go to 7.
Okay, so then 4?
So yeah, for stress, I go to 4. In security, my move ends up getting into my head. You know, when I'm in 7 space, I'm dreaming, I'm thinking about the future. Okay. I'm not really aware of my physical body. And there's just an energy of creativity and dreaming that can take place there. On the low side, there is alcohol for me and the low side of 7 is overconsumption in a variety of places. And that also can be, outside eyeballs. That can be a very bad move for me to like actually stop doing things and move into 7 space because that can be a dysfunction, an unhealthy space for me. So
then healthy 4 looks like what?
Healthy 4.
And are you like, oh, I want to go there? Or are you like,
yeah. Ugh. Healthy 4 looks like me really taking a moment to see and understand my inner life and what I want. And a lot of my Enneagram work really comes out of that space, actually, is I know, right? I have experienced what it feels like in the high side of 4 to do internal work that is deeply stabilizing and meaningful. And I really want that for everybody else. And so like a lot of my energy toward Enneagram comes actually out of that high side 4 space.
Okay. TJ?
I like that.
Let's hear it. Yeah.
Wait, what?
So
What question am I answering?
Your relationship to your quote stress number, the high side of your stress number, are you like running there, or are you know, because 6s look at 3, right? They look at standing out and sort of being shiny, and it's like,
Sure.
no, thank you. And it's like, well, yeah, you gotta.
Yeah. There is a lot about 6ness that I do not want to encounter. And a lot of it has to do with the things that 6ness is going to spur me to do. Like in both directions, I get a sense of there's stuff that I have to do. And even in the healthiest version of each side, like it's still like I have to get some things done. So I mostly like the world is a stressful place. I have a 5-year-old and a chronic pain disease. Like there is an awful lot of falling into 6ness that has been happening to me the last several years. And I'm still learning like what I want to take away from there as opposed to what I know I need to take away from there.
Which is...
So like I need to get some things done. I need to be better at planning. I need to be better at preparing for the future. Like there's
even
a
your
lot
face
of that.
is just
There's
so happy
so
to be
much about
saying
that I'm not good at that stuff, and I don't want to do the work to become good at it. It sounds so boring and tedious, and not that 6ness is boring or tedious. Just my movement there.
Yes.
I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But also, like, this was one of the things that I'm very recently figuring out is that, like, there is also a sense of community and the ability to rely on the community that I already have that I don't naturally carry with me.
That's good. Yeah.
Like 9s are like affable and go along with the flow and all of that stuff. They get along with everybody, but we don't rely on other people consciously. And there is a sense of being able to trust and rely on the support that I've already gathered around me that I can pick up from that stress move. And that is really attractive to me.
It's also
I'm learning how to accept it.
It's another thing that 6s hold is that we're actually a social species, that we actually need each other. I think that's something 6s are kind of always highlighting. Yeah. And especially in America, we're like, no, we're clearly all just doing our own thing. And it's like,
we
clearly not.
Pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps.
Right.
It's like, okay, but listen to that phrase. Somebody had to give you boots. Somebody had to make those boots.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody pulls themselves up by their own bootstraps. That's not real.
Bunch of communists.
Especially the online world, 6s are holding a lot of crap. For other numbers, right? Oh, they're the anxious ones. Oh, they're the ones who need support. They're the ones that blah, 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 blah. And I really think my answer is like, show some respect. Yeah. There is a lot going on in 6 just because you don't understand it. And they're kind of a dumping ground for weakness is not at all what's actually happening in 6s.
Yeah.
You know, we're holding up so much of truth, of responsibility. 6s are getting things done a lot of the time. So, yeah.
Yeah.
How does that land for you two?
Agreed. And
okay.
And I've done a lot of work over the years that we've been working together to try and shift how I speak about 6s, because it's really easy to tease the fraidy cats.
Totally. Absolutely.
And that is not accurate. It's not fair. It's not good. And it has the potential to actually do more damage than good.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I fully agree. I think that is actually one of the biggest problems with the teachings of sixes is that it's easy to tease the fraidy cats, and we need to stop it.
Yeah, I think that's good. And I didn't know I had that answer in me. So I'm actually really happy to have had the question posed, a couple different times, because it brings up this, like, it's just a bunch of bull. Exactly what you said. They hold this place in the Enneagram that's just, like, all of the sort of stereotypes don't really get into it, but sixes particularly, because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
In the big project that we're working on, the end of it's going to really focus on virtue. And for ones, twos, and sixes, the virtue that we need most is wisdom. And what I hear there is that sixes can self-understandingly be the place that's holding all of everyone's anxiety and see themselves as that vessel.
Yeah.
Wisdom is going to say, this is what you ought to be anxious and fearful of. And wisdom is going to say, this is what you must overlook, despite, what is inside of you saying otherwise. I need wisdom in a very similar fashion in terms of saying, this is what needs to get moved forward and improved. This can be set aside. The two, famously, needs to say, this is what's mine to do, and this is not what's mine to do. All of that centers on wisdom, and so that's what I was hearing there.
Yeah.
A good place to land on the sixes. So transitioning, Kristin, what questions are on your mind right now as you're thinking Enneagram?
Okay, so we've answered a lot of them.
Perfect.
It's been amazing. I do want to hear from both of you, how do anxiety and worry play in your day-to-day? So from a 1 and from a 9,
we're
very
going to have
curious
two
about this.
very different answers, I bet. So I am absolutely immune.
What?
Until something seriously breaks. Fear is a blind spot to me. So I feel like this is a great place for us to land. Unless you got any other thoughts there, Kristin?
No, we got to everything. This was so much fun.
Friends, you all have not yet gotten to hear the second half of our conversation because it is exclusively on Patreon. But Kristin and TJ and I have heard the second half of our conversation, and it's really good.
Boy.
It's really good.
So just in case you are interested in hearing more of our thoughts on sixes, stress and security moves, and the world in general right now, not a common topic on the Around the Circle, but do go to our Patreon. This is at aroundthecircle.org. Sign up for a membership. Now we have over 30 or 40 hours of extra material there. It's some of our best material, well worth finding. Kristin, you have listened to some of the extra material.
I have. I learned things. It's good.
If you or somebody that you love is looking to figure out your Enneagram type, or just, make sure that you're the type you think you are, do go to the Start Here podcast. We are continually releasing new episodes there as well here recently. And if you get into our pop culture stuff, movie typing is our third podcast. So that is what we got. We got a book coming out in June. If you're interested in seeing us live, we're going to be in Colorado June 27th and 28th. We're going to have our annual, it's not really annual.
It used to be
annual
now
prior to
whenever
COVID. And we would love to have you. And
2025. That's if you're listening to this in 2026, we may not be having an event in June. Who knows?
There's a great book out. You should go pick it up. It's called Around the Circle, an Enneagram book. Kristin, you got anything else for us?
No.
Where can people find you? You are doing fantastic work.
Thank you.
For sixes only, though. If you're a six or you think you're a
only.
six,
Yeah. I'm doing nothing for anyone else. My podcast. I host the Life Uninhibited, an Enneagram Six podcast. And then KristinMessegee.com is the other stuff. And Instagram. I have a love-hate relationship with Instagram, but I am there as the Enneagram Six coach.
It has a great feed, well worth finding. TJ, you got anything else?
I got nothing, man.
Kristin, it was a delight having you. Very nice to meet you. I'm really looking forward to connecting with you in the future. And do keep us in mind when you're doing fun stuff.
Oh, I will.
Well, he's TJ Wilson. He's officially awesome. She's Kristin Messegee. I'm going to screw this up.
Messagee.
Seriously. I said
That's okay.
She's Kristin Messegee. Doesn't roll.
You know what? Maybe I'm wrong.
She's been a delightful guest. We're cheering for your work. And I'm Jeff Cook. And who you aren't just isn't interesting. All right.